was an absolute disaster for the Indiana Fever. No way to spin that. It was simply bad. They got outplayed in every aspect of the game, coaching on down. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for being here. Uncensored and unafraid. Shout out to the 19. Appreciate y'all keeping this channel going. Do me a quick favor if you haven't already. Like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Of course, comment below. Where to begin? First of all, let me say this because I think this is important. Is it the end of the world? No. Is it okay to scream and yell and stomp your feet about an absolutely pathetically bad game and think the sky is falling? Yeah, sure, of course, fans do that. But here was my real concern after watching that game. Like my big thought. Yes, I have big thoughts. To me, this was a glimpse into the future of the Indiana Fever and Caitlin Clark's career if she allows herself to be successfully bullied into completely accepting Stephanie White's third grade, forget the superstar, participation trophy offense and defense, by the way. What you're going to get is underperformances from Caitlin Clark, bad performances from Caitlin Clark, disinterest from Caitlin Clark. I think, there were a lot of people saying that at times she looked like she didn't want to be out there. And as much as I would like to disagree with that because she is such a fiery competitor, I got that vibe at times. It absolutely looked like that. And you contrast that with the last game and you put clips of Caitlin Clark in those two games side by side. And if we're all being honest, we're going to be like, yeah, she kind of looks disinterested. She looks like she doesn't want to be there. She didn't play well. She wasn't terrible. And that's not really even a criticism because no one plays well every game in every sport. It's just not possible. The greatest of all time have some of the worst performances you could ever watch. It's called being human. So people are like, oh, this is proof Caitlin Clark's overrated and Caitlin Clark's terrible and Caitlin Clark can't play and Caitlin Clark can't shoot. Caitlin Clark can't play defense. That's all nonsense. Did she have a bad game? Yeah, who didn't though, right? That's the question. Raven Johnson, I'm going to shout out Raven Johnson. Now, look, again, just for a reminder for the crazy people, my issue with the selection of Raven Johnson was the roster and what the needs were for the Indiana Fever. But we had Amber and Kelly and Stephanie on the friends and family plan, and it was a lot more about running things back and getting the group together than it was putting a winning roster together that can go win a title. Sad, but true. That's the issue I have. But Raven Johnson herself last night, to the point where it's got people saying, because I've mentioned this kind of times too, with what I've seen from Kelsey Mitchell this season, maybe we can turn Raven Johnson into the shooting guard out there with Caitlin Clark. Or, we've got Caitlin Clark is the point guard, but obviously we know she's a scoring first point guard. Raven Johnson becomes enough of a threat from three-point range, 30%, to where you, as a defense, you have to worry about it. Maybe Raven Johnson and Caitlin Clark's the backcourt of the future instead of this insanely overpaid $1.4 million supermax Kelsey Mitchell that we're getting this year. This year's version of Kelsey Mitchell is hurting this team. And by the way, speaking of, it wasn't just Caitlin Clark's 3 for 12. Kelsey Mitchell was 5 for 13 and had some bad plays. Aaliyah Boston was 4 for 11, correct, right? 4 for 11. Had some really bad plays. The play to end the game with Aaliyah Boston was a terrible shot. Now, I don't know if she wanted it, but Caitlin Clark was open, and I saw Jason Whitlock, I think, calling people out who were saying Caitlin Clark should have gotten that last shot because she was 3 for 12. Here's my thought on that. Yes, she was 3 for 12. But she's that player, right? Like, if Michael Jordan is having a bad shooting night, he's having a bad game, and I'm the Bulls, my final play is designed to have Michael Jordan take the final shot, right? Allen Iverson, same. Kobe Bryant, same, right? All of these guys, even if they had a bad game all game long with their mentality and skill, they are taking the last shot. And any coach worth their salt is making sure they're designing a play to get them the last shot. Steph Curry, Right? Remember that clip I played a while back, which I thought was really cool? Steve Kerr and the conversations that he had during games with Steph Curry when Steph Curry wasn't shooting well. Steph Curry's getting that final shot. Now, those players, because of the gravity, actual gravity, WNBA, that they have and pulling defenders, if there is time on the clock to do it, they may very well give it up to someone who has a much better open look. But the play is designed for them to take that final shot. Caitlin Clark should have been taking that final shot. It could have gone into Aaliyah Boston to come out, right? I think what three players at least collapsed on Aaliyah Boston on that final play. And she forced an awkward, crazy bad shot. Probably could have even flipped out to Kelsey Mitchell. To be fair, I can't remember exactly where Caitlin Clark was because in all the replays I found, she's cut off, but I think there was enough time to kick it out to her as she's coming in because we all know her range for her to take an open look. So I didn't like that. And I want to point out something else as a real concern because forget the offense last night. And what we saw last night was hardcore Stephanie White motion offense that does not work. We saw the end result. The big three all WNBA players. So what were they? 9 for 24, 12 for 36 combined from the big three. That's not going to get it done, right? That is certainly not going to get it done. But again, to be fair, none of them get a whole lot of really open looks because the offense doesn't generate open looks because of the way that it's run. But here's the thing that really gets me that no one talks about enough. Because we all hear about Stephanie White's that defense. Oh, she's a defensive. Oh my gosh, the expert in defense. Show me. Give me some proof of that. I've never seen it. Now, what I have seen is I have seen her keep teams to low scores when she got to coach the Connecticut Sun and was allowed to play thug ball, and the defense was actually bullying opposing teams and fouling them constantly while it not being called. Alyssa Thomas, right? But that's not actually being a good defensive coach. And I talked about this last year with Stephanie White, and last night was another great example of it. She plays a switch on everything, no matter what defense, which is ridiculously stupid and very easy to exploit. And you saw that last night. You saw that last night with what Veronica Burton did to Caitlin Clark. But folks, that's a mismatch. And when you know that the other coach is so limited in their defensive strategy that it's, hey, if there's a pick set, just switch. Oh my God, you love that because it's the simplest way in the world to get a mismatch that you want. It's just like if Caitlin and Aaliyah run the pick and roll and you get a big now on Caitlin Clark, right? As opposed to say getting some type of open shot initially, you now have a big on Caitlin Clark in the open court outside the 3-point line. Perfect, great. She can take him to the hole easily. She can shoot the three easily. It is whatever Caitlin Clark wants to do, and it works the other way as well. Right? It works that way for everyone. Mismatches. That is what happens when you switch on everything. Man, when I was playing, back in the day, even in high school, even before high school, we actually had really good, tough defensive coaches, and it was, no, we're not switching on anything because we're not letting you get bailed out by a switch. You are going, first, teammates are going to communicate. The player's not switching, right? If you're the one not getting picked, you may show to the player coming just to slow him down a little bit. But y'all are doing everything you can together in your communication to make sure that the player getting picked is able to fight through it and there is no switching, period. So we can chalk the game up to just a bad loss. They didn't play well. That's it. But I'm not going to rehash them all again, but you just kind of heard my thoughts on the concerns going forward if we don't get things fixed, if we don't change the offensive system, if we don't go more read and react, if we insist where our defense is 100%, we're switching on everything, that type of thing is going to happen again and again. You're going to get mismatches all of the time. And then a lot of people are going to blame Caitlin Clark, but it's not Caitlin Clark's fault. If you're switching all the time, all of a sudden she's in a mismatch every time. And the reason they're doing it to Caitlin Clark, despite all the talk, isn't because she's this terrible defender. She's a much better defender than Kelsey Mitchell. it is because of it wears Caitlin Clark down, right? They understand what Caitlin Clark's impact is for the team, offensively speaking. So they want to attack her on the defensive end, not because she's a defensive liability, but because of what she brings offensively. The more she has to work on defense, the more physical they can be with her, the more she wears down, the less effective she is on offense. If they don't already have Stephanie White making Caitlin Clark completely ineffective. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. I will talk to you later.